It started on a Saturday morning that should have been perfect. The kind of day where the air feels crisp, the sun just warm enough to melt away the stress of the week, and the waves roll in like clockwork, lapping against the shore in soft rhythm. I had brewed a cup of coffee over a small fire, still half wrapped in my sleeping bag, enjoying the silence on my private stretch of beach. I'd bought the land 3 years ago after cashing out on a successful software startup. It was my noise, no crowds, just me, the sea, and the sky. And then she appeared, like a character summoned straight from a suburban nightmare. Bob haircut, oversized sunglasses, pastel windbreaker zipped up to the neck even though it was already 70 degrees. She had that clipped walk, every step full of purpose and entitlement, like she was inspecting property she assumed was hers. At her feet, a trembling Pomeranian yapped at the waves like they were personal enemies. She stopped a few feet away from my tent, arms crossed and eyes narrowed. "You can't camp here," she said in a tone that didn't invite discussion. I blinked. I hadn't even finished my coffee. "Excuse me, this is common space," she continued. "Community property under the Seaview Bluffs HOA. No tents, no fires, no overnight camping. You'll need to pack up and leave." I took a long sip of my coffee, buying a few seconds to process the audacity I was facing. "Actually," I said, standing slowly, "this is my private beach. I bought this land outright. You can check the public records." She gave a little snort laugh, the kind that makes your skin crawl. "Sure you did. That's what every squatter says. Listen, I'm the president of the HOA here. I know every inch of this neighborhood, and this beach has been open to our residents for decades. You're clearly mistaken." I didn't argue, not yet. I simply walked over to the edge of the dunes and pointed to the metal boundary marker sticking out of the ground. "See that? That's the official survey stake. Everything from here to the waterline is mine. Bought it 3 years ago, including that little cliff trail you probably walked down." She hesitated for the briefest moment, but recovered quickly. "Even if you think you own it, our HOA is reclaiming the area under easement rights, so you're still trespassing." I raised an eyebrow. "An easement would only apply if I had sold you access, or the city had mandated public usage. Neither happened. You're on private property." She pulled out her phone like it was a badge. "Well, I'm calling the sheriff." I smiled. "Go right ahead." And she did. While we waited for the deputies to arrive, she paced up and down the sand like a mall cop. Her little dog relieved itself right by my cooler, and she didn't even notice. I sat back on a driftwood log and finished my coffee in silence. When the sheriff's SUV pulled up, she marched straight over like reinforcements had arrived for her side of a battle. "This man is camping illegally on community beach property," she declared before they had fully stepped out of the vehicle. The deputy turned to me. "You got some ID and paperwork?" I handed it over. A couple of minutes later, after comparing the county map and deed I always kept in a waterproof sleeve, the officer turned to her. "Ma'am, he's right. This is private property. The HOA doesn't have jurisdiction here." Karen looked like someone had just slapped her with a wet fish. "That can't be right. We've used this beach for years," the deputy shrugged. "History of usage doesn't override ownership. If you keep trespassing, he's within his rights to file a complaint." They left after giving her a warning and advising her to respect the boundaries. I figured that would be the end of it. Silly me. Over the next few weeks, Karen's behavior escalated. She started parking her car at the edge of my trailhead, blocking it partially and taking photos of anyone who walked down the path. One morning I came out to find a fresh wooden sign staked into the sand. HOA recreational zone, residents only. It was laughable wrong font, amateur paint job, and completely illegal. Then came the letters, mailed directly from the attorney's office, boilerplate legal threats about shared use and historical rights. I had my lawyer respond once, clearly and professionally, shutting it all down, but it didn't stop her. The final straw was the party. I had been away for a weekend trip and returned Sunday afternoon to find the beach in chaos. Folding chairs scattered everywhere, drink cans in the sand, remnants of a bonfire smoldering by the rocks, kids running wild, a Bluetooth speaker blasting top 40 pop like it was a frat house, and several adults sunbathing under canopies like they were at a resort. I marched down and asked who had organized the gathering. One guy shrugged and said, "Karen told us we could use it. She said the HOA took the beach back." I didn't shout, didn't raise my voice. I took photos. I collected beer cans with fingerprints. I saved every shred of evidence. Because what Karen didn't know, what made me genuinely smirk as I watched her wave to her guests from the bluff above, was that I had a card left to play. A big one. A move so quiet and powerful it didn't need a single word exchanged. I had let her feel in control, let her trespass, let her build up a sense of ownership, let her believe she had the upper hand. But I already knew the truth. I had known it for months. The paperwork had already been signed. The county records had already been updated. The entire area she was so proudly governing. She was about to find out that I didn't just own the beach, I owned her entire block. The town hall meeting was set for Friday evening, and by Wednesday, the whispers had already started in the Seaview Bluffs neighborhood. Karen had been going door to door, rallying residents, spinning her version of the story, trying to gather support like a campaign trail. Politician, according to her, I was some outsider trying to steal public access and privatize community land. She conveniently left out the fact that I held a recorded deed, and that she had been blatantly trespassing and encouraging others to do the same. But it didn't matter. People believed her. That's what charisma without truth can do. What Karen didn't know, what she couldn't possibly guess, was that the situation had moved far beyond an argument over beach access. This wasn't about a tent, or even a strip of sand anymore. It was about something much larger, something buried in years of overlooked documentation and forgotten ownership records, and that truth was about to blindside her. When I had first purchased the beach property, I had noticed a few odd easements and notations in the title paperwork, things that didn't make much sense until I began researching the adjacent parcels. As it turned out, several of the access roads and buffer zones in the neighborhood weren't actually public or HOA owned. They had once belonged to a long-defunct development firm that folded in the late 80s, and over the years, the parcels fell into tax delinquency and were quietly auctioned off. That's where I came in. I had acquired those leftover parcels through a little-known county program that liquidated neglected properties. Some were worthless slivers of land, but one was a game-changer. It included the entire main access road leading into cul-de-sac, the utility easement that ran beneath it, and the landscaping buffer behind all 10 houses on her block, including hers. And because no one had updated the HOA plat map in over a decade, they were blissfully unaware that someone else had been quietly granted ownership of critical parts of their infrastructure. That someone was me, and I had waited, patiently watching, as Karen strutted and barked and handed out HOA violation notices with the smugness of a self-appointed queen. I had smiled and nodded as she lied through her teeth about decades of usage. And when she led that beach party on my land like she was throwing a victory parade, that was the final push. So when Friday evening arrived, I put on a plain, gray shirt, rolled up my paperwork, and drove down to the town hall with quiet certainty. The HOA board had already reserved a front row. Karen was front and center, clipboard in hand, smiling like a woman about to win a courtroom drama. The room was filled with about 30 residents, all whispering, all expecting fireworks. The meeting opened with standard procedures and agenda items. Then, finally, the topic turned to community property disputes. Karen was the first to stand. She walked to the podium and spoke with conviction. Our HOA has maintained open access to the beach area since the community was established. We've organized cleanups, events, and recreational access for decades. Recently, an individual, one who does not live within our community, has tried to privatize the space, restrict our rights, and interfere with HOA-sanctioned activities. There were nods, murmurs of agreement. Therefore, she continued, I propose a formal resolution to designate the beach as an HOA recreational zone, supported by our historical usage and the easement outlined in our 1997 charter. The moderator nodded. Any responses before the vote? I stood, walked to the podium without rushing, and pulled out my paperwork. My name is Eric, and I own the land in question. I began. The beach you're referring to is not within the Seaview Bluffs HOA boundary. It is private property. Purchased in 2020, the easement Karen mentioned was reviewed by county records in April. It does not apply to my parcel. You've all been trespassing, Karen scoffed, loud enough for the room to hear. He's lying. There's no way he owns. Held up the signed, notarized deed. The moderator leaned forward, examining the documents I handed him. His eyes widened slightly as he flipped through the pages. These appear legitimate. I can confirm they are, said a voice from the back. Heads turned. It was the county clerk. She had shown up at my request, armed with printouts from the land records office. Not only does Mr. Eric own the beach lot, she added, but he also owns the easement corridor that connects Seaview Road to Driftwood Trail. He acquired it legally through county tax sale in 2022. The HOA has no jurisdiction over those parcels. The silence was deafening. Karen stood frozen, eyes darting from face to face. That can't be right. We've been using that road for years. Use, I said calmly, doesn't equal ownership. And now that we've established boundaries, I'll be restricting access to prevent further liability. Unauthorized beach access will be reported. Signage is going up this weekend. There were a few gasps, whispers, and just when the moment was ripe, I delivered the final blow. Oh, and one more thing, I said, pulling out one last document. About a month ago, I purchased a lean-to title note from the bank on a property within this block. It's since converted to a full mortgage holding. The address 614 Seaview Drive. Karen's face drained of color. That was her house. Now, the room erupted. People looked at each other in disbelief. Some whispered, "Is that legal?" Others just stared at Karen, who had begun to tremble slightly, clutching her clipboard like it could shield her from reality. "I'm not here to evict anyone," I said, "but I want to be very clear. I've tried to handle this civilly." Karen escalated things. She trespassed, harassed me, and encouraged others to do the same. That ends now. The moderator adjourned the topic swiftly after that. I didn't stay for the rest. I didn't need to dot by Monday morning. The HOA recreational zone sign had mysteriously vanished from the beach. No more parties, no more guests, no more guests, no more dog poop next to my tent. Within a month, Karen was voted out as HOA president in a landslide. The new board sent me a letter apologizing for misunderstandings and asking to discuss potential easement agreements in the future. I was open to that on my terms. As for Karen's house, she continued living there, quiet and furious. For a while, every time she passed by me, she avoided eye contact. She now knew what I had known all along. This wasn't about power or control, it was about ownership. It was about who did their homework and who didn't. And now, every grain of sand she once claimed, every inch of pavement she used to enforce, her rules, all of it belonged to me. She tried to rule a kingdom built on assumptions, but I bought the castle and the land it sat on.